So welcome, our brilliant, beloved colleague, Aimee. We so appreciate your consistent leadership and all that you do for so many. And as always at SETC, we begin all things by giving thanks and acknowledging our creator. We acknowledge all the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Aimee, can you please share a little bit about your background and your remarkable work with our listeners and viewers?
Sure. And thank you for that acknowledgement and for having me on. And I'll just also acknowledge that I'm calling in from Chibuktuk, which is unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I'm really happy to be here. What can I say about my background? I mean, I have always done community work. I would say it's been on the front lines. It's been at the ground level, and I entered into the work that I do through a lens of food systems, security, and food sovereignty. And so my work has always been about how to create the conditions for more distributed food systems, for more equitable, stronger, like more accessible food systems, and doing that in relationship with community and with the land. And so what I carry from that in all of the work that I do now is really fundamentally about, let's call it relational systems design, and how we understand our relationships with each other and to the lands that we're stewarding, to the history, to our passions and ourselves as human beings into the work that we do. And I think when we move from that relational space, we move on ground that is much more solid than trying to understand some of the problems and the complexities. Like, it's like when we are in relationship with one another, we build understanding and we can come to new solutions together. And so the work that I do now, I work out of the Mi'kmaq Native Friendship Center in Halifax. So the Mi'kmaq Native Friendship Center is one of many friendship centers across the country. And I was hired on into a unique role to build a reconciliation initiative. And so the Mi'kmaq Native Friendship Center offers more than 50 programs and services to the urban Indigenous community in Halifax. And this work was really about imagining what it can look like if reconciliation were to play out at a neighborhood level. And so we were looking at work that had been done in the UK around participatory design, and thinking about what are the elements of social infrastructure that can not only work together to build social inclusion and social cohesion, but also do it in such a way that is both inclusive and centering reconciliation. And the thing I can say about that, in the north end of Halifax, where we're actually working right now to build out this demonstration, it's a very interesting community. It has very deep roots in the African Nova Scotian community. It is a historically African Nova Scotian community, and a place that is very, very important to the urban Indigenous community in Halifax. It's where the Friendship Center is. It's where folks come to both access service, but also experience and practice culture with one another. And so this kind of interesting environment was really our starting place for building Everyone Every Day. And so the work that we're doing is really about trying to design a new system of neighborhood participation that is fundamentally building on the creativity and the contributions of the residents who live there. And so what would it look like if our social spaces and the mechanisms that work to connect and coordinate those spaces actually worked in service for the people who already have the ideas and the creativity and the imagination to make that neighborhood what it can be and what it needs to be to thrive, and to reflect the people who live in that neighborhood, which is fundamentally different in every single place. So we are building a demonstration. We are building a way in which folks can come and learn about how it is we're trying to center reconciliation in the work that we do.
That's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for all that context, but more importantly, the impacts. of the work that you're doing. It's truly remarkable. So my next question, what's inspiring you right now in your work? What has you curious, or what's keeping you up at nights?
Um, I mean, look, I draw inspiration from so many places, and I think in this moment, what I can say about what inspires me is what I see every single day in the spaces that we're creating. And so we are designing things that are meant to draw on the individual talents and interests and skills of people living in the neighborhood. And it is an immense and beautiful experience to watch that emerge based on what it is we're offering in the community. And so we often talk about conditions for social innovation and social impact. And in my heart, I know that those answers and that creativity exists in the community. It's about how it is that we let that emerge through the natural processes and the systems and the way in which we design our communities and our neighborhood. And so we are seeing amazing projects. We've got initiatives happening across the North End that we're trying to connect as part of an ecosystem and create a real sense of abundance, a real sense of we have what we need here, but how is it that we connect those things and allow it to emerge? And I mean, I think this is one of the things that both inspires me and keeps me up at night, which is that, you know, within this social and philanthropic sector, like we are moving always on an edge of scarcity and never having enough and fear and competition. And this is something that I think whether it's intentional design, it's design. It's been built into the system to pit folks against one another. And oftentimes those are the folks who have systemically already been marginalized and are oppressed in the systems. And so it's like, how is it that we are nurturing cultures of abundance and care in the systems that we're designing? I worry a little bit about the responsibility that is being laid into the social sector right now. I think for generations, you know, it's been a place of, for lack of a better word, charity, right? It's like, you know, this is where we go when folks need programs and services. But the reality is those things are emerging out of a place of a gap in the system, right? And so social organizations are stepping in to fill that. But at the same time, I'm also seeing so much innovation and creativity coming out of that space, but it needs the attention and the investment and the recognition that it deserves as a place where real Inuit, like real creativity and innovation is happening. And so I think about that a lot, about how to really invest in the social system and the folks who are really doing interesting work.
Indeed, I couldn't agree more. So my next question, what challenges and barriers are you facing in your work? And what are some of the approaches you and your colleagues are taking to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
I mean, look, like, you know, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, resourcing is a challenge. Like we are constantly trying to articulate in the best way, in the right way, why this work is impactful when we know from the stories on the ground that it absolutely is. I think what I continue to think of one of the biggest challenges of our time is that we are not articulating and framing the problems in the way that help us get to the solutions that we need. And so if I can give you an example, if we understand, let's take hunger or food insecurity as a problem of not having enough food, we are going to address that problem with more food banks. We're going to say, how do we get more food to people? When the reality is, food is an issue of culture, it is an issue of environment, it is an issue of social and economic systems. And so when you think about that, both the solutions and the people responsible for solving those solutions become very, very different. We are working in a space where systemic challenges are overlapping, they're interconnected, they cannot be defined or addressed by siloed solutions or groups of individuals. And so until we start to think about and understand the problems in that complex way, I worry about us being able to actually come up with the solutions that we need. And I'm constantly asking myself, like, what are we upholding here that is not serving the people in the work that we're doing, and what are the new systems we're trying to build? And that space is very difficult to work in, to try and live in the space where the systems exist, but know that we need to build something new. And I think that's really, really hard work. And I would say it leads to the second big challenge that I see, which is that in this environment where we have so many folks committed to more to justice and equity and new possibility, that work is very hard. And it is not just about the work, it's about the healing, it's about the truth, it's about the history, it's about how do we get here, and how is it that in our context of working, we create space for both those things and the care and the rest and the attention that is required to attend to that while also doing the work. And I don't see these as different things, right? And so in the organization that, or the initiative that we're trying to build within the Friendship Center, we see learning and care and rest and generosity and support for one another as a part of the work that we are trying to do. And in that context, there is trauma, there's stuff that we all need to attend to and work with, and that is challenging, but it is the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So my next question is, how do you feel about the future of this work? Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? How are you feeling?
I mean, I don't think I could do any of the work that I do without feeling hopeful. Like the work that I do every day, it's my spirit, it's my passion, it's my heart, and it's my livelihood. And I feel blessed and privileged to be in that situation. But at the same time, I don't think I could do it without some sense of hope that there is another way. And I think it goes back to where I started, which is in the relationships. I trust that if what we are here to do is nurture relationships and understanding with each other and the environments that we are in, including the natural environment, then we are moving in a good direction. And I think when those relationships break down, so too does the work. And so if you put that in the context to a work, I want better relationships with the folks who are funding the work. I want stronger relationships with individuals who receive and are impacted by the work. I want stronger relationships with the folks that I'm doing the work with. And it's like, if we can build that shared understanding, that to me is hopeful, because we're moving from the same songbook. We're starting to understand things in a similar way, and we're shifting perspectives and mindsets to really be clear about the problems we're trying to solve. And I think if we can start to understand that in a different way together, we can start to think of more hopeful solutions that actually come from the communities that we aim to serve.
Ashe. So my second last question, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
My colleagues and I are always talking about what this work is. And let me be clear. So in the context of truth and reconciliation, one of my close colleagues, our learning and evaluation manager, has developed our own framework, call it for truth and reconciliation. It's a tool that allows our team to both understand what we mean by that in the context of working with each other and in neighborhoods and with other organizations, and how we as individuals can hold ourselves responsible and accountable to the work of truth and reconciliation from an individual, communal, organizational level. And I think my goal is very tied to that. It's how do we raise our level of consciousness as a collective to be able to be in these conversations together, at the same time acknowledging and accepting the many different worldviews and ways of being that make life what it is. And so again, this goes back to how we do our work together and acknowledging that is of equal importance to what the work is, and to ensure that the things we're building are always in in question, in curiosity of, is this serving our vision for the future generations? And if we can imagine what, if we can understand more about how we got where we are today, and the history that brought us here, and do that with humility and strength and relation, then we can start to think about, okay, where we are and what does this mean for the future generation and what we hope to build. And that is my goal. Like that's the space I want to work, and all of the information and relationships that I'm taking in to build that matter to me. And that's, for me, that is a good way to live and to work.
Indeed. Thank you. So do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
No, I mean, I'm just deeply grateful and appreciative to have these opportunities. What folks wouldn't have heard is this amazing intro that you gave me to you and your work and all the other people that you are connected to. And I think it's that. It's how do we just keep going, knowing that we are in deep challenge all the time, but knowing that, like, there's so many people out there with brilliant ideas. And so I want to find those people. I want to connect to those people and know that, like, we are doing this. There's movement, but we do have to keep going. And I believe that, and I just hope there's a young generation out there of very, very creative, smart, intelligent people. Also, as you said, more so than myself. And, like, how do we lift those folks up and prepare them for these challenges that we're trying to figure out ourselves? And so, how do we bring in young people and the wise, that our elders and community, to be able to, help, bridge all this information and this knowledge that we have?
Ashe, ashe, ashe. Thank you so much for your remarkable leadership, your authenticity, and your genuine commitment to community development. It's inspiring. And yeah, we did have a remarkable conversation before the interview. So yes,
Yeah.
just thank you for all that you do for so many. And as always at SETC, we close the way we began this conversation, this interview, by giving thanks and acknowledging our creator. We give thanks and acknowledge all the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassionate compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Aimee, for all that you do.
Thank you, Victor. I appreciate it.